Keep yourself in the loop of everything football on the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast. The latest news on and off the field, be it college football, Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, Pac-12, ACC to the NFL. We've got you covered. Listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast.
And welcome to the GSMC Football Podcast, a part of the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm here with Jeff Malinoff. I'm Marc Souza. We have a lot of good stuff to talk about today. We'll be discussing the Thursday night football game that happened last night between the Patriots and the Colts. And then we'll also dive into the Week 5 matchups. We'll give you our scores, our predictions, of course. And we'll break down each game, give you the information that you need to know, look for in this weekend's crucial NFL matchups. And then, of course, in the last segment, we'll talk about some other news regarding football. And I think we might talk a little bit about the Texas-Oklahoma game.
Oh, we can do that.
Yeah, we'll do that.
We'll definitely do that.
Yeah, the Red River rivalry or the Red River showdown is what they're calling it now because it's hard to say Red River rivalry. Did you hear about that?
What? Say that again?
The Red River, it used to be the Red River shootout, but then
I have a feeling why they changed it.
Yes.
Let's not go into that.
Then they changed it to the Red River rivalry, but it's really hard to say. So they changed it to Red River Showdown. How do you feel about that?
I like it. I like Showdown.
Red River Rivalry. Anyways.
I prefer Showdown.
Anyways, last
Showdown
night.
at the Red River. Boom, I just made it so much better.
Last night.
Showdown at the Red River sounds so much better. Agree with me on that.
Yes, agreed. Can we move on?
No, not yet. You have to praise. Okay, now continue.
Okay. Do you need more praising?
No, I'm good.
Do you need more attention?
We'll not get in on that, but continue.
Anyways, let's talk about last night's Thursday night football. The New England Patriots defeat the Indianapolis Colts 38-24. Tom Brady gets to 500 touchdown passes. Andrew Luck and the guys from Indianapolis, they went into Foxborough. They were down big early. They made it a game, but then they ended up losing. It's a comfortable win for the Patriots. That's 2 comfortable wins in a row for them. And what did you see from the Patriots? Do you feel better about their prospects moving forward after last night, or is your opinion, does it stay the same?
I say it stays the same. Not any big impacts or anything like that to me.
It was the Colts. They should win that game. Tom Brady, 34-44, 341 yards. He has 3 touchdowns on the night, including the record-breaking 500. And early on, they got his BFF, Julian Edelman, back from suspension in this game. They got him the ball early. They ended up throwing him the ball a total of 9 times. 7 were completed for 57 yards, including the first pass of the game. I think it was an 8 or a 9-yard gain in the middle of the field. Edelman also had a nice punt return in this game. So he's back. Do you think he adds a dynamic to their offense that they've been missing?
Yeah, but also he didn't really do, he didn't have a great game, under 60 yards receiving total, and 7 receptions, you said?
Yep.
And that's not really what you want coming back from a guy who's supposed to be your one receiver.
James White was Brady's favorite target on the night. He threw him the ball 14 times, which was 5 more times than Edelman. 10 catches, 77 yards for James White as he controlled the short yardage area of the passing game. 7 yards per catch average. He also got in the end zone. James White, he's becoming a consistent mainstay in this offense. I was a little bit worried coming into this game if his role would change at all, just because Edelman is a guy who gets a lot of targets in the short passing game, moving the chain. So I thought that might take away from James White. But in this game, it did not. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah. This game was just rough throughout the entire 4 quarters. Like, the Patriots kind of got away from them at the 4th quarter, but other than that, it wasn't a game you could write home about as a great game.
Josh Gordon, he scored a touchdown. He had 2 catches, 50 yards.
In the weirdest touchdown of the season, in my opinion. Double coverage, went in between both defenders. Defenders didn't even go for the ball, and he caught it in a touchdown. And it just looked like the secondary wasn't even trying.
Kind of looked like the football was a little bit flat, too, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I get it.
So, Gronkowski, 6 catches, 75 yards. He did not get in the end zone. He's had kind of a slow start to the season.
Yeah.
Hasn't made that big impact yet,
Well, look who he has around him.
Yeah, but he's Gronk. Like, he's had these players around him all the time.
But without Edelman or anyone like big receiver, he's getting double covered a lot more.
Yeah, maybe, but he's Gronk. He gets double covered. He still makes great plays. We haven't seen too many big plays from him this year. Do you expect that to change?
Yeah, we'll see. I don't know what they're going to do.
So the Colts coming into this game, I think we both kind of saw it coming. I think you predicted 31-14, and then I predicted 31-17. So I was slightly closer than you. I got the margin right. I got the game pretty close. Obviously, there's a 14 more points scored, but it went about as what I expected. I think even what you expected. The Colts, they came into this game banged up, coming off a loss. No T.Y. Hilton. The offensive tackles were injured. What do you have to say about them and their offense and their overall performance last night?
Solid.
The Colts were solid?
Well, in the first half.
I mean, they were down, 21-3 at halftime or 17-3?
Yeah, it was more of like they were hanging on by a thread.
Okay.
I would definitely say it was competitive for a quarter and a half, but bottom line is they can't get it done. Their secondary is awful. Their offensive line is a joke, but Andrew Luck is still trying to make other guys look good around him, which he is, and that's what I mean by solid. He's making other guys look solid around him. They still look like a team that can try to win some games, but they're not going to.
Yeah, so the Patriots were up 24-3 at halftime. Colts did make it a game. They got within a touchdown before New England ends up pulling away. It was always going to be a tough game for Andrew Luck. He was without his top target, T.Y. Hilton, and without both offensive tackles. So you could definitely tell that it was a struggle for him. I think even moving the ball just consistently was hard for them, but give Andrew Luck some credit because I think he did what he could in this game. But the fact is that their defense isn't good enough, and their offense isn't good enough to hang with a team like the Patriots on the road.
Yeah, and Fox. If it was in Indianapolis, maybe it's a different story. But still, it's Foxborough makes it a whole nother level of difficult.
Absolutely. So, Sony Michel, the rookie, had another good game for the Patriots. It looks like they found their consistent running back that Tom Brady can trust.
Absolutely. Losing Dion Lewis was tough, but still having James White as well as Sony Michel.
It's a nice 1-2 punch. Huh?
Absolutely.
Yeah, James White, he's not much of a running back, but he is certainly a threat out the backfield. Michel is not really a passing option. They did throw him a pass yesterday on a fake screen to White, and then they threw it back to Michel. So
they were creative, that's for sure.
Yeah. Michel's looking good, though. He runs hard. Were you a fan of that pick when they picked him? It was unusual for the Pats to take a running back.
I like the pick because the Georgia running back Michelle, it was a very one of the reasons they went to the national championship game in the first place.
They had an incredible combo in college. They had Michelle and Chubb as their 1-2. That was a brutal 1-2 punch that defenses had to face in college. So the Patriots, they moved to 3-2, setting up their Week 6 showdown next weekend. It's actually against the Chiefs on Sunday Night Football. Are you excited about that game?
I'm looking forward to it, definitely. It's a challenge, definitely, for the Chiefs.
The Chiefs
Probably
played
their biggest
Jacksonville.
challenge yet.
They played Jacksonville this weekend, and then they play the Patriots. So tough 2-week
It's a
stretch.
rough 2, yeah. So this is Mahomes' big test.
Yeah, it will be interesting. New England will be at home in that game, Sunday Night Football, against Kansas City. Their season, I think, after a tough start, starting to take shape. Although they do play the Chiefs and then the Bears, so I think both games would be difficult for the Patriots. But I wouldn't be shocked if they win their next 2. So looking at the Colts, they have now dropped another game. They're 1-4.
Mm-hmm.
They play the Jets next week. It's in New York. Is it a must-win game for them if they want to have any, I don't know, idea of having a decent season? Any idea of being 8-8 or so?
I can see 8-8. It's a possibility, but I don't see it as like. I see mainly it being like that's their ceiling.
Yeah. Okay. I agree with that. That would be their absolute ceiling for me too. So they play the Jets, the Bills, and the Raiders in their next 3 games. They're 1-4. Those are 3 winnable games, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, definitely winnable, but again, you never know. Bad luck happens.
Well, the Colts will be able to get rested.
Especially with the Colts. The Colts have bad luck all around them.
They'll be able to get
Ironic,
rested.
isn't it? How unlucky they are.
Bad
because they
luck.
have a lucky horseshoe as their helmet.
And their quarterback's name is
Andrew. Well, I wasn't even thinking about that. I was just thinking how bad luck their team is in general. And yes, Andrew Luck has bad luck because he can't seem to stay healthy.
So his middle name is Bad? Andrew Bad Luck?
All right, I'm done. Nope.
Yeah.
Nope.
So
You're on your own for right now. You deserve silence from me.
the Colts move to 1-4. They do get some time to rest. T.Y. Hilton should be back for the next game. Possibly their linemen will be back too. They had a couple injuries. I know the defensive lineman Hunt, he got injured last night. So they have some time to rest and hopefully be back at full strength or close to it when they face off next week when they make the trip out east to New York to face those Jets and Sam Darnold. Interesting game there, but yeah, that pretty much sums it up for Thursday Night Football. It was not a great game, but at least it was entertaining and somewhat competitive there in the second half. It was nice to see a game that was 24-3 at halftime not just be a boring, dull second half. The Colts made it a game. Andrew Luck did his best to bring his team back. But unfortunately, Tom Brady was on the other side. He breaks the record, or he breaks his milestone, I guess, as he hits his 500 touchdown passes in his career. After the game, Belichick had some nice things to say about Tom Brady. He said that there's no quarterback he'd rather have, which for Bill Belichick is about as nice as a comment as you're going to get from him, wouldn't you say?
Oh no, I'm still ignoring you based off your bad luck joke.
Oh, so I'm being ignored, apparently. But we will head.
That joke doesn't deserve my presence until the next segment.
Speaking of which, we will head to our first break, and then when we come back, we're going to break down the Week 5 matchups, tell you our predictions, and what we see in these games. And we'll do that right after this.
Are you looking for help for your fantasy football team? Check out the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast. Get today's best advice on who to start, who to sit, even who you should draft. From sleeper picks to red-hot lineups, they got it all covered for you. That's gsmcpodcast.com/fantasy-football-podcast. We'll cover traditional leagues, dynasty, PPR, even IDP leagues. When you need fantasy help, there's just one show to hit up. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit gsmcpodcast.com for more info.
And welcome back to the GSMC Football Podcast here on a Friday, getting ready for the Week 5 Sunday matchups. It should be a good week. There are some interesting games on the slate. There's a couple maybe not so interesting, but I think overall there's a few games here that'll be worth your attention. But we're going to go through all the games because there are people who like teams from all over the place. And we will make sure that we talk about if your team is playing, they'll be covered. First game, let's just get it out of the way. Maybe one of the most unpopular games of the weekend. Not too many fantasy football implications, more than likely. But the San Francisco 49ers, they are 1-3. They're going to host the only winless team in the NFL, Arizona. The Arizona Cardinals come in with Josh Rosen. He will be starting again. Of course, David Johnson. It looks like Larry Fitzgerald will play. He's been dealing with
Richard Sherman's also predicted to play too.
We'll see if Sherman plays, but Fitzgerald will be playing. He's been dealing with a hamstring injury. Maybe Sherman will play for the Niners. Niners have some other injuries too. Breida and McKinnon are coming off injuries. They're questionable. Both tackles are actually questionable. Staley and McGlinchey. What do you see in this game? I see that we did our predictions where we gave our scores. Jeff, you predicted the Niners would win 28-20.
Yes.
And tell me why. Tell me what you see.
Because. Okay, I'll give you the answer. Because the Cardinals are 0-4 for a reason. They have been playing so bad, and the 49ers have always put up a lot of points in the last couple of games. Yes, they're 1-3, but they put up a lot of points on those 3 games. And so I see them continuing that trend of high point scoring. And with the poor play of the offensive side on Arizona's part, I don't see them blowing that offensive power they have.
Yeah, so you got San Francisco 28-20. I also have the Niners winning a score of 24-17. I think what you said, you hit on a lot of points there. The Niners can score some points, I think. I think their defense, both defenses aren't great at all, but I will give the edge to the home team. If the Niners lose this game, are they in your bottom 5 power rankings next week? I think they already were, but are they lower? Maybe like your worst team, or what would you say? Because the Cardinals and the Niners were in your bottom 5.
I put the Cardinals last still. 0-4 speaks for itself.
So if the Niners lose to the Cardinals, are they last? Possibly. Depending on
how the play is, how they play. If they get blown out or something like that, then yes. But if it's like a close game, penalties kind of cost them some things like there has been in the past, then I put them like second to last, but I still put the Cardinals last.
So moving on to the next game. Tennessee Titans will travel. They'll go up north to Buffalo, New York, as they face off against Josh Allen, another rookie quarterback. So Marcus Mariota and the Titans come in. They're coming off a couple impressive wins where they just defeated the Eagles, and then the week prior, they defeated the Jacksonville Jaguars. I think that on paper, this doesn't look like a close game, but Jeff, you predicted a 13-7 score with Tennessee winning, so you think that it'll be low scoring and obviously competitive. Tell me why you see that.
Just because their offenses could do so. Their offenses leave a lot to be desired, and I think this could be a defensive matchup for sure.
I think the Bills' defense is decent. Like, their offense doesn't help them out. Does that make sense? Like, even when they lost to the Packers 22-0, I thought their defense was fine. They just when you don't score, you're gonna get blown out, wouldn't you say? Like, if you don't score any points, like, the score is gonna look bad.
Yeah. But I see, just looking at this game, I don't see an offensive showing from either team. I see a defensive showing from both.
Who would you say will be the one offensive player on Tennessee that might have a decent game?
Deion Lewis.
I agree with that. I also think Tennessee will win, so we are both on the same page here. I think it'll be a score of 20-10. So again, I see a lower scoring game. 30 total points is definitely on the low end of the spectrum. Mm-hmm. I agree. I think this is a Deion Lewis game. I think the Bills can cover down the field.
He's due for a big game.
So I see Deion Lewis getting some carries. I see him getting 5 or 6 catches in the short passing game to help Mariota move the chains. And ultimately, I just don't think Buffalo poses enough of a threat to win this game. But weird things have happened, right? So,
very weird things.
So, the third game that we will get to, we have the Cincinnati Bengals, the upstart Cincinnati Bengals, sitting at 3-1. They will be hosting the Miami Dolphins. Yeah, I mean, no one expected the Bengals to be 3-1 at this point, right?
Oh, fair enough.
So Andy Dalton and the Bengals, they've been playing well. They had that thrilling last-second win against the Falcons last week. You don't expect them to carry that momentum over, as you have picked Miami in an upset to go to Cincinnati and win 17-14.
Yes, 17-14, just based off they were 3-0 going to New England. They got blown out. And I think it's put up or shut up time, and then they're gonna put up.
So you got Tannehill edging out Dalton here in a low-scoring game. You think the it'll be a struggle for offenses in this game?
I think there's going to be a lot of turnovers.
Okay, fair enough. Cincinnati gets Vontaze Burfict back. Do you think that's a boost for them?
I can see that as a boost.
Bengals right now are one of the worst defenses in the NFL, so they need the help. Yeah,
they are a bad defense, granted, but one of the reasons I put it as a low-scoring game is Burfict coming back.
Gotcha. I disagree with you here. So this is our first game.
Well, fine then. I'm out of here.
This is the first game where we differ on our picks. I have Cincinnati at home, 24-20, winning over Ryan Tannehill, Adam Gase, and the Miami Dolphins. I do expect Kenyon Drake to be a little bit more relevant in this game after only seeing a handful of carries the last 2 games, which is weird. Xavier Howard is a really good corner for the Dolphins. So A.J. Green might have a tough day, or at least a tougher day than he did in weeks past. But I do like the other weapons that Cincinnati has: Tyler Boyd, John Ross, and Joe Mixon should be coming back. So a boost for Cincinnati with not just
as a little teaser for the Fantasy Football Podcast coming up today as well. Would you trade Joe Mixon or would you keep Joe Mixon?
It depends on the trade, of course. No player is untradeable, but I would keep him unless it was a big offer.
Well, I have a trade for you because I've been hearing about some trades that people are trading for Mixon. I'll tell you about it in the Fantasy Football Podcast, but I'm just saying there is a trade coming. I will tell you about it.
And you can catch that podcast later on today. We will have that one right up for you after this. So I have Cincinnati 24-20. And we will be moving on to the next game on the slate. And that is your Baltimore Ravens. They will be heading to Ohio to face Baker Mayfield and the Cleveland Browns. Cleveland had a Cleveland-like loss last week where they couldn't close out the game against
Cleveland-like loss. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. You know, the defensive coordinator for the Baltimore Ravens came out this week and said Baker Mayfield was the next Favre/Elway.
A bit premature.
Do you agree with that assessment, though? Do you see Favre or Elway when you see Baker? Like the style of play, the gunslinger look.
Tell. I can see what
I see more Favre than Elway. If I
can see he's a risky thrower and all that stuff, but let's not compare him to two Hall of Fame Super Bowl winning quarterbacks in his first couple of games. Please, can we not put that much pressure on the kid?
The all-time interceptions leader, Brett Favre,
and he used to be the all-time touchdowns leader.
So
you're saying Brett Favre's not one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time?
He's fine. Let's not get into it. He's good.
Well, no. Why do you think? Because of his interceptions, he's the bad quarterback.
I don't want to get too far off topic, but Brett Favre is one of the more overrated quarterbacks in NFL history. Not that he's not good. That doesn't mean you are not good. So don't get all upset.
I'm not upset. I'm going to let the audience be upset.
The audience can have their own opinions.
Okay, yeah, you better say.
They can have their own opinions. We are all entitled to our opinion. Cleveland, you have Baker Mayfield. You have the Cleveland Brown offense, the Cleveland Browns team headed by Hugh Jackson to beat Baltimore, score a 31-24. Tell me what you see.
It's more of the defensive side of the Browns have been pretty darn good.
Except for last week.
They still had some interceptions.
They gave up 45 points.
They still got turnovers. That's what I'm saying. The turnovers are going to be a key factor in this game.
What matters more, points or turnovers?
Turnovers.
Oh, really? So at the end of the game, if you have more turnovers?
No. Turnovers cause points. Turnovers are a key to points.
So let me ask you a question.
It's not one or the other. Turnovers are a very key element to getting points.
If Cleveland didn't force Oakland into turnovers last week, would they have given up 60 points? Is that what you're telling me? Possibly?
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that turnovers are a key to getting points.
So 31-24, you like Cleveland's defense doing enough in this game and Baker Mayfield having a good game?
Yes.
Okay. So I have Baltimore winning this game. I don't see a rookie quarterback picking apart a strong Baltimore Ravens defense that is getting Jimmy Smith, their top cornerback. He gets back for this game after coming off a suspension of 4 games. Baltimore, for me, 27-17. Let's move on. We'll stay in the same region here. Aaron Rodgers, the hobbled Aaron Rodgers, and the 2-1-1 Green Bay Packers. They head up north to face the Detroit Lions, the inconsistent 1-3 Detroit Lions. We saw them lose to the Cowboys last week. It's going to be a matchup between the Lions and the Packers, another Stafford and Rodgers game rivalry. You like Green Bay in this game, 19-17.
Yes, I'm having a good Back to the Future 2 reference game right now.
All right, so tell me why.
Kudos to anyone gets that reference.
Tell me why you see a Green Bay 19-17 win. Tell me how the game will go.
Rodgers. That's all you need to say.
Right. So a low-scoring game. You think defense
Rodgers,
as well?
it's going to be rough, but at the end of the day, Rodgers is going to get the job done.
Okay. So 19-17, and we disagree here as well. I actually have Detroit winning. I don't think they're the better team, but I think that it's a must-win type of game for them at home against a banged-up Rodgers. Also, Geronimo Allison is banged up too. The Packers are dealing with a few injuries on the offensive side of the ball. Allison, of course, is coming off a concussion. I have Detroit winning 31-27. I like Golden Tate in this game. I think he has a good game with Stafford, over 350 yards and 3, possibly 4 touchdown passes. I think it will be a shootout, though, 31-27. So not only do we have different opinion in who will win this game, but we actually have a big difference in opinion how the game will go. You think it'll be more low scoring? I think it'll be more high scoring. I guess we will see when we come back on Monday. And then the last game that we have to talk about before we head into our first break, or second break here, I should say. Kansas City and Jacksonville. This might be the game of the week. For me, it's going to be the most interesting game because you have the clash of that great offense from Kansas City and that tremendous defense that Jacksonville has. Probably the best defense in the NFL. It's a clash of styles. Blake Bortles on the other side against that atrocious Kansas City defense. You like Jacksonville on the road to get a 24-21 win.
I do. Defense wins championships. Defense will win this game.
Defense wins championships except for last year's Super Bowl when it was the two highest offenses of all time in the Super Bowl, right? Like the most yards.
You can't just use one example saying that credits everything else that's happened.
Yeah, but like when people say cliches like defense wins championships, like it's like okay. Anyways, 24.
Shut up.
24-21 Jacksonville.
Would you rather have the best defense in the league or the best offense in the league?
Best offense.
Whatever, you're wrong.
I'd rather have the best offense and a middle-of-the-road defense than a middle-of-the-road offense and the best defense.
I'd rather have the best defense and a middle-of-the-road offense. Are you kidding me? Yeah, you can get some...
So would you say Jacksonville is a middle-of-the-road offense and and number one defense? Because that's kind of what we're talking about.
They're not ranked the number one. Well, they're the ranked number one defense when it comes to yards per game, sure, but...
They're the number one defense.
They are the number one defense. I could see them going to the Super Bowl. I see them still Super Bowl contenders.
Okay, so they're on a good track. They definitely are a contender. I think that both of us would agree they're in the top 5 right now.
And all they need is like 14 to 21 points, and all of a sudden they got the game in the bag.
So 24-21, you think the score will be Jacksonville comes out of Arrowhead with a win?
Yes.
Okay. I differ with you there. I think Kansas City, because they're at home, because of offense, I think Jacksonville will limit their offense. There will be more field goal attempts by the Chiefs than in prior games. I got Kansas City 30-27. They just do enough. Harrison Butker kicks a game-winning field goal to push the Chiefs over the top. So we have differed a few
here. Or he'll be
here.
Lynn Elliott and miss a field goal. Sorry to Chiefs fans for reminding you who Lynn Elliott is.
You know who missed a field goal last night? Adam Vinatieri, which was interesting to see. He missed that field goal.
He's still a Hall of Famer.
He's made a few, you know. He is the NFL, the all-time leader. But we'll go to our second break. When we come back, we'll finish up with the rest of the NFL matchups for Sunday's slate of games, and we'll tell you how those will go.
Check out the show that's built on the MMA. From the UFC to extreme cage fighting, they got the fights covered. Check out the GSMC MMA podcast. Get the latest news on past or upcoming fights. Join us as we talk to and about some of the biggest names in the MMA, past, present, and future. When it's the fight game, there's just one show to check out. GSMCpodcast.com/MMA-podcast. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
And welcome back to the GSMC Football Podcast. Again, coming up later, we will have that Fantasy Football Podcast. Don't forget to tune in so you know who to play and who not to play this weekend for those lineups. But let's get right back into these Week 5 matchups. So we discussed a few so far, about half of them. The New York Jets, they're going to be hosting Denver Broncos. The Jets... they had a great first win to the season. They've had a struggle since. And the Broncos are coming off that loss against Chiefs, where I thought they played relatively well. Thought they had a good game, but they were just beat by a superior team. However, Jeff, you are not so impressed with Case Keenum, and you think the Jets will win this game in a low score, 14-10.
Yeah, I'm not impressed by Case Keenum because he's been struggling since signing with the Broncos this offseason. And I do see the Jets taking this, and I'm keeping by what I said.
Okay, in a low-scoring game, 14-10, you like the Jets. I also like the Jets. However, I see a little bit more scoring, 24-17. I like Darnold in this game to take his team to a win, a much-needed win, a win in front of the home crowd that they haven't had yet. Should be I don't know if it's one of the more interesting games on the slate, but it is a game that I think will be interesting for both teams to kind of see where their season heads after this. As in addition to Darnold, I like Powell on offense for the Jets. He's their pass catching back. I see this game where he's used effectively and a lot. So I like the Jets as well. We both have them in this matchup.
Should we pull a Fireman Ed right now? Should we do a Fireman Ed thing? Jet. I can't finish. I'm sorry. I'm not Jets. I can't do it.
So let's move on to
Jets. Okay, let's
move on to a more exciting matchup that I think most general fans
more
would
exciting than the Jets Sam Darnold versus the Broncos Case Keenum.
Yeah. How about Matt Ryan against Ben Roethlisberger?
Nah. No, I'm kidding.
Pittsburgh will host the Atlanta Falcons this weekend. Atlanta, a tough loss against the Bengals. Do you think they'll rebound?
That's a different sport.
I mean, you do think they'll rebound because
that's basketball. Anyways, check out our basketball podcast. Boom. That's how you promote.
You like Atlanta in this game, not just to win, but to win 42-28. Let's talk about that because that's a score that you predicted that looks odd. That stands out.
The Falcons' offense is pretty darn good right now,
except for Julio Jones scoring touchdowns.
Calvin Ridley's been doing plenty of that on his own.
They also get Devontae Freeman back this week. Do you think that's a boost?
Absolutely. He can't hurt.
I mean, he can get hurt.
He can't hurt that offense, though. I mean, they're now going to watch the run game now.
Maybe their red zone efficiency will improve with Devontae Freeman adding back to the lineup. Okay, but you do see the Steelers scoring points. So you just, I think this is just a game that two similar teams, both offenses can put up a lot of points.
And the Steelers secondary is pretty sloppy.
Yeah, big time. So Pittsburgh, they did win their last game. They beat Tampa Bay. They were able to make Fitzpatrick look very ordinary.
Not Fitzmagic, Fitzpatrick.
Yeah, he
just
reverted
ordinary Fitzpatrick.
He was Ryan Fitzpatrick with Cable, right? Is that how the commercial goes?
What?
It's like, oh, I'm with, I've...
Did he do a commercial?
No, is it DirecTV? Is that who does this?
Oh.
Like Fitzmagic is like the...
It's the thing with, it's the commercial like, I'm this and I don't know what you're talking about.
This is just going off the rails.
This is going right off. I know exactly what you're talking about. I forget what it was about, though.
So you have Atlanta.
It was Comcast and I'm Cable. No. Was it Apple and I'm like an iPhone or Microsoft? No, it was like a tablet and I'm computer type thing.
Mac and a PC?
Maybe.
Okay. I have Pittsburgh 34-31. Obviously, there's going to be points scored in this game. I would be shocked if both teams don't get over 25, 26 points. It just seems like it's a game where last possession might win.
What would you do if both of them go under 25 points in this game?
I would be pretty shocked considering how bad both defenses are.
Run around, eat 10 donuts on air. Back to back.
10 donuts?
Yeah, just stuff them in your face. No chewing.
Sounds dangerous.
It's.
I usually, I avoid risk like that when it comes to health.
So that's
Pittsburgh.
why you don't play football. That's how you don't play football.
Pittsburgh wins this game 34-31. You have Atlanta, so we differ there. Let's move on.
Okay.
We have the Carolina Panthers.
Donuts.
Carolina Panthers coming off of a bye. They play the New York Giants. Giants are 1-3. Panthers 2-1. It's in Carolina. Do the Giants have a chance here?
That'd be a strong no, my friend.
You actually have them at not even scoring any points. You have Carolina winning 24-0 in a very lopsided score. So tell me why you see it.
Have you seen the Giants play? Do I need to explain myself on that one?
No.
Barkley doesn't have enough room to make a play when his offensive line crumbles as soon as he gets the ball hit enough to Eli Manning.
It is unusual, though,
from Eli Manning,
to see a prediction where somebody predicts a shutout. So you
gotta go gutsy on some of them.
But you expect Carolina to just shut down that offense. You think Eli will be like running for his life all afternoon?
That offensive line makes you want to run away from everything.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, that offensive line is a joke.
It's a never-ending problem in New York, and they need help there. So I also have Carolina to win. I don't see them losing against the Giants in a home game. Coming off a bye, they've had time to rest, prepare. I like McCaffrey in this game. I think he goes, I want to say 150 yards combined from scrimmage, receiving plus rushing. I think he gets in the end zone this time. 26-17 I have Carolina, so we both agree that Carolina...
So a 9-point margin.
Yeah, which is a pretty solid margin, but I think the Giants will score some points. I think, like, Odell could get loose for one. I would say him or Barkley, at least one of those two gets a touchdown, maybe both.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see, though. Carolina, I think, is a good team, but I don't know if their defense is good enough where I could be confident saying a shutout, but you might be right. I wouldn't be completely shocked if it happens. So, how about we go out west?
We are already in the west, silly.
Chargers from Los Angeles, not from San Diego, because I seem to get that wrong.
The Los Angeles Chargers of Anaheim.
Yeah.
Get it?
Yep. So, they're 2-2. They're hosting the Raiders, who are coming in at 1-3. The Raiders did win their last game. John Gruden got on the board for the first time in about a decade. You like Oakland to go. It's basically a home game. I'm not going to say go down on the road to LA because LA is Raider territory in this matchup big time. So the Raiders will go and get a win, 20-17. That's what you see, huh?
I do, and I'm sticking to it.
Tell me why the Raiders will coming
off a big win as they did. I think the momentum is going to continue.
Well, what I noticed most about the score that you predicted, 2017, tell me why the Chargers will only score 17 points and not be able to put up a 28-35 point game.
Because
science.
Exactly. I can't explain it. Just the element of science.
So Phillip Rivers will have a tough day?
I would say he has a moderate day.
Raiders are pretty good at stopping passes to running backs out of the backfield. So Melvin Gordon, I know they use him a lot there. Maybe his effectiveness will be limited. Austin Eckler as well. Both guys have been catching a lot of passes out of the backfield, making plays, scoring touchdowns. It's been a big part of that offense. But the Chargers do have the ability to throw down the field. Mike Williams, Keenan Allen, Tyrell Williams. They have a few guys. You know, Rivers throws the ball around. Even Antonio Gates scored a touchdown last week. I like the Chargers here, 30-24. I don't see the Raiders being able to stop Phillip Rivers and those wide receivers. They might have some success against running backs, but not the receivers. Chargers win.
We shall see.
So let's go to another key pivotal matchup between two playoff teams from last season. Minnesota Vikings, who are not so hot right now. They're 1-2-1. They will travel to Philadelphia to face Carson Wentz and the 2-2 Eagles. This might be the biggest game in the NFC, I will say. It's almost on par with the KC-Jacksonville game, in my opinion, but we'll see. Both teams have not had the start that they've wanted in this season. Carson Wentz still coming back from the injury, of course, off-season surgery. He looked a little bit better last week. Maybe the offense will continue to improve for the Eagles. Minnesota has had no problems on offense, except for that Buffalo game. Their defense, though, has been quite concerning. One of the league's best defenses from last year has just not shown up this year. You like Minnesota 24-20.
I do have them winning 24-20.
Yes. So tell me what you see from the Vikings.
Defense and motivation.
Defense and motivation. Man. Yeah.
Problem with that?
I mean, that's a funny way to put it, but I agree with you that I think their defense will improve. I think that they'll win this game. I think they'll go on the road. It will be a step back for the Eagles, in my opinion. I just like Kirk Cousins and that offense taking advantage of that weak Philadelphia secondary. Thielen, Stephon Diggs, I think both of those guys are players to look out for. Dalvin Cook, I don't expect him to play. He is coming off an injury. He hasn't practiced. I think they'll just be cautious with his hamstring and make sure that he's right so he doesn't have a long-term injury. So I like Minnesota 27-24. So let's move on. We have two left here. The Los Angeles Rams in NFC West.
LA Rams are going to win.
They're going up north to face Seattle. You have a big score, 35-10 is what you see happening for the Rams over Seattle.
Yes, and I'm sticking to that because I said so.
Tell me what you see though in this matchup.
Just I feel like one team is better than the other team. Is that as generic as you like?
Yeah, that gives our listeners a lot to look for. Any players that they should focus on. The Rams have had a history of being
course,
all over
their
Russell
defensive
Wilson.
line, Ndamukong Suh and Aaron Donald are the two that I'm going to be looking at the most in this game.
They've had a lot of success against Russell Wilson, even when the Rams have been not been good.
They're going to, and with that offensive line, that's not the best offensive line. They're going to get to the quarterback awfully quickly.
I think this is your biggest score margin that you have this weekend. Would you be just absolutely shocked if Seattle won?
I'd be surprised. What did I say the score was going to be?
35-10.
I think that's 25 points. I would say, yeah, I if they win, it'd be interesting to say the least. It would shake up the NFC West a little bit.
I also have the Rams winning by a big margin, 38-17. Seattle's defense just is not what it used to be. Earl Thomas, the last member of the Legion of Boom, is now lost for the season, probably lost in general as he hits free agency. I don't see how Seattle stops this Rams team from scoring 35 points or more. Jared Goff, Brandon Cooks, Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp, Todd Gurley. I mean, all these guys are getting involved. Goff is doing a great job in that. Obviously, Sean McVay and that coaching staff, those plays that they've been putting together.
McVay is doing everything right. He's hitting all the right buttons.
He has been flawless, I think, through his first year and almost year and a half as a head coach in the NFL. The youngest coach in the NFL. And, yeah, I don't see that train stopping. Maybe, I know they'll lose a couple games, but I don't see it this week. Give me the Rams, 38-17, so we're the same there. We both believe that the Rams will not be stopped by Russell Wilson. All right, so the last game that we can get into, Dallas and Houston, Sunday Night Football, Deshaun Watson, Dak Prescott, both teams coming off of wins. The Cowboys beat Detroit. Houston, they stop Indianapolis in overtime. Houston's at home. You like the Texans in this game in a low-scoring game, 14-6. Why do you see that?
Because I said so. And also because I just think that the comparison of the two teams is not really a comparison.
What do you mean?
Just I feel like they're better. They're so much better than they are.
You think the Texans are so much better than the Cowboys?
Well, looking at well, they should be. On paper is what I'm saying. Because that defensive line should be beast. That Tavares Matthew go into that defense should make them even better. But they haven't really lived up to that hype they should have. They're looked really at the red. They're still the redheaded stepchild of Texas football, and they really shouldn't be. I think they are better than the Cowboys at this moment.
Do you think that Deshaun Watson will have a better NFL career than Dak Prescott?
Right now,
No. I'm saying
later in the future.
project the future, like
I
10
can see.
years.
Yeah, I
Yeah?
would say yes.
Yeah, I like Deshaun Watson. I mean, obviously barring injuries, but he did come off that major ACL injury last year.
I still
Houston
think he's a
has
better
problems,
talent
though.
than Prescott is.
You like Houston. I think Houston has problems, especially with... I think Lamar Miller is one of the worst starting running backs in the NFL, and their offensive line isn't very good.
Who you say he is the worst or one of the worst?
One of the worst. I don't know.
Who would you say is the worst?
Starting running back in the NFL?
Would you say Matt Breida or no?
I mean, he's third in the NFL in rushing right now, so I can't say that.
I guess like no names. You can put him in that category.
Lamar Miller is just 3 yards per carry. Like, that's just him. Like, he's just not a dynamic running back. He just leaves a lot to be
kind of
desired.
a power back, but not even that.
I would say, yeah, 2 names that come to mind for worst starting running backs are him and probably Isaiah Crowell for the Jets, if he's considered their starter over Powell. Or what about Peyton Barber for the Bucks? Yeah, I'm going with him.
All right. Is that the last game?
So I have Dallas winning.
Oh, you
24-21. Yes, I have the Cowboys doing enough. I think that the defensive line for the Cowboys, especially getting David Irving back, will be a big boost. I see them rushing the passer very effectively in this game, getting Deshaun to make some mistakes. The Cowboys' defensive backs are also pretty good. So I do see kind of a rough game, 24-21. I think it will be a defensive kind of battle. But yes, the Cowboys pulled off, and that's what I have. Dallas, you have Houston. So that's our picks for the week. We'll make sure to come back next week and see how we did. We'll recap this on Monday. But we're going to go to a break now, and when we come back, we'll talk about some last little news and notes going on through the NFL.
We'll see you then.
Check out the show built around the women of MMA. From the UFC to the extreme cage fighting, we got the fights covered.
Listen.
It's the Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast. The latest news of upcoming fights, discussions of previous matches. Join us as we talk to and about the biggest names in women's mixed martial arts, past, present, and future. When it's the women's fight game, you know where to listen to. The Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast.
And welcome back to the final segment of today's football podcast on the GSMC Podcast Network. We will wrap this thing up as we just talked about the matchups for Week 5 on Sunday. An exciting slate of games. I think this week is pivotal in the NFL as we see some teams that need wins to kind of stay in contention for division and playoff positioning, although it's still really early in the NFL.
It's only week 5. It's only week 5. Let's not.
But we will be a third of the way through after this week, and you don't want to fall back. You don't want to fall behind.
I still wouldn't say let's make this season like on full-fledged alert or anything like that.
So let's talk about some injury updates, Jeff. Who has been ruled out?
Leonard Fournette just got ruled out versus the Chiefs.
I think we saw that one coming, right?
As well as Gio Bernard ruled out for the Dolphins due to a knee injury. So those are two pretty big holes in those two teams for the Bengals and the
Fournette. We expect
Jaguars.
to be out a long time. His coach said that he was out indefinitely.
Well, he's just ruled out. He's officially ruled out.
Right. So Yeldon will get the start. Do you think that they will miss Fournette, or do you think
yeah, absolutely.
I'm not so sure.
You just will, like, with play action type of stuff and running the ball, like, you need someone that's good has a running back. You need someone that had solid numbers, and Yeldon's not Fournette.
Right, but Yeldon's a more dynamic player. He provides a dual threat. Fournette, for me, has just kind of been underwhelming in the NFL. Like, he gets a lot of volume. Like, he puts up numbers because he gets, like, 28 carries for 100 yards. But, like, he hasn't shown me that he's, like, an elite. You remember him in college? Like, how awesome he was?
He was on a very good LSU team.
Right. But he was a physical nightmare for defenses, right? Mm-hmm. Like, he was fast, he was big.
You can't say that.
Remember that run where he just trucked the guy on the sideline?
Yeah, but NFL is different because everyone's that size. Everyone's tough. Everyone's big.
I mean, we see a guy like Ezekiel Elliott or Saquon Barkley, and they're noticeably athletic. You know what I'm saying? Like, Fournette just seems like he's another guy.
Do you think he's going to be a draft bust?
I think that Fournette and Derrick Henry have not lived up to the hype.
Derrick Henry's not fair because he's a slow, big bruiser back from Alabama.
But even Fournette doesn't look like he's a fast bruiser back. I don't know. We'll revisit this at a later time.
We'll see at the end of the season.
But TJ Yeldon, he has experience in the NFL. I do think that he provides...
Very, very little starting experience, though.
Sure, but he's played well recently. He's played well this year. Gio Bernard is hurt, like you mentioned. Joe Mixon's coming back. Sounds like he's going to play. So I think that actually they'll get better there. What do you think about that, adding Mixon back into the lineup?
Well, of course, adding a guy like Mixon's going to up your team a little bit, but how is he going to play without a guy like Gio Bernard helping some of the weight with the carries? Like, he's going to be coming off an injury and basically being the running back, and that's going to be an issue for him because I think that could re-aggravate his injury.
Yeah, absolutely. Any other injury news?
Those were the two most recent ones that really caught my eye.
It looks like Randall Cobb's also been rolled out for the game for the Packers, which they already have a beat-up receiving core, including...
They have a beat-up team.
Yeah, their quarterback, obviously, Rodgers hobbled, but Geronimo Allison might play. He had a concussion, so he's in the protocol. They sound optimistic about him, but no Randall Cobb. Devontae Adams also beat up. Their entire receiving core is questionable. That's part of the reason why I like Detroit.
Do you see the Ndamukong Suh video from his practice yesterday?
I did not.
He instead of tackling, they tackle the QB dummies and all that stuff.
I see that.
He punched it. He just straight up just walked up to it and punched it in the face. And it's like, can you imagine if he actually did that during a game where he just went up and punched the quarterback through the face mask, through the helmet?
Yeah, that's insane.
Yeah. But, and Jalen Ramsey blasts Tyreek Hill.
Yeah,
and says,
I was going to talk about that.
He's not just a return specialist. I put him as one of my top 3 running receivers in the league at the moment.
You would?
Yeah, I definitely would.
He's a really good
I would put him at number 3.
He's definitely way more than a return specialist. The guy,
he's probably one of the most consistent wide receivers.
He's a very good route runner. He's shifty. He's not just a one-trick pony. He's not just speed. He can get open. Mm-hmm. Do you think that Jalen Ramsey will shut him down, though?
I guess we'll see if he's a return specialist or not.
If you had can you give me a stat line for Tyreek Hill? What do you see his stat line looking like? How many catches, how many yards does he score?
In this game alone?
Yeah, he's going to get shouted by Ramsey.
10. I would say he gets at least 10 targets thrown to him. He catches at least 5 of them. Maybe I would say 68 yards receiving. Over under on the 68.
Yeah, I'd say 4 catches, 65 yards.
So you go under the 68?
Yeah, I go under.
Okay, that's fair enough.
Any other news that we should talk about?
I think that should do it. Join us next Monday when we talk about Monday Night Football and see how many the games we got right. But again, tune into our fantasy football podcast later today. But until then, we will see you next time on the football podcast. Not the fantasy football. This is just the football podcast.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.